Okay, so technically the setup is now alive. Great. I promise you not death by PowerPoint, but in the worst case, maybe death by Mark's scribbles, because you will see today a mix of some prepared slides and also some interactive drawing. Yeah, and as Angela already mentioned before, no, please feel free to interrupt. I cannot guarantee to give you always an answer. And I have to also include in the beginning a little disclaimer before we dive into the content. And that is that, unfortunately, I cannot show you today real existing screenshots of corporate applications, because the focus is indeed today not only on the topic of using the VSM to create a social brain in theory, but I want to say, like to show and share with you real cases, stuff that I did, stuff that worked not so well. Also, I would like to include my learning. So it's not only a Chakazula, everything is super story, but also not everything is super bad. It's a fair balance, I guess. And yeah, due to compliance reasons and non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, I will show partially only abstractions, but I think you guys get the core, ladies and gentlemen, of course, get the ideas and can live with the fact that it's not, like I said before, an original screenshot of an existing dashboard of a certain project or so with real figures. So I can only show and shared already the templates. By the way, yeah, in the chat, you find also the PDF as a download. If the connection is bad or you want to have it for documentation purposes, feel free to download it. So, having said that, a few words about me. Yeah, my name is Mark Lambertz, and I would like to consciously share with you my organizational experience because I think that matters also in the course of the next hour or so, 1.5 max. Because it explains why I came up with certain ideas and did the things that I did in the past. So at first, story number one or aspect number one, I founded a digital agency in 1995 with a few friends together. And I did this for 20 years. The company grew, was built, I was bored, I sold my shares and stepped then voluntarily into my next, I don't know, maybe part of my career, dealing with organizational development, agile coaching, and the VSM plays an important role. More about that in a minute. I did this for almost 5 years, not completely, published 4 books. 3 are heavily, so to say, dealing with the viable system model in German, because I think it's a shame that in the German language, the VSM or the German speaking sphere, the VSM is not as popular as it deserves to be. That was, so to say, a very, very strong driver for me. And for about now 2 years, I'm a corporate cowboy. That's how my beloved wife, Renata, calls me sometimes, in a huge corporation. I also will explain a little bit about this corporation called Metro, but it has nothing to do with the subway system or transportation. It's a completely different business. And already in these 2 years as being, so to say, in a huge corporation with roundabout nowadays 90,000 employees, I already worked in 3 different roles, from being a so-called agile master on team level to more, a program lead, a OPL, an operational program lead. And in the moment I'm playing the role, and please now breathe through, because this is, oh my gosh, what a title. I'm the global lead for digital touchpoints and eCRM. So in short, I try to facilitate the growth and prosperity of the websites, the app, corporate web, the customer app, and everything that is related to the newsletter. That would be maybe a translation, more tangible, instead of this, yeah, quite feudal title. I can remember the day when I got into contact with the VSM, so that you also maybe can judge my experience. Actually, I guess for this round, I'm still one of the newbies, only being in touch since 2013. Nevertheless, it was a very important day in my life. One of the few eureka moments where I really had to, cry out of luck, joy, and also, oh my God, the feeling of I wish I would have seen it and discovered it much earlier in my life. And I went, by the way, also already through the circle of loving it, distancing myself from it, and falling in love again, because damn, it's so good. Interesting journey. Yeah, and what's now today menu? What do we have on the plate? On the one hand, I would like to spend a few minutes, as short as possible, about the business context, Metro AG, so that helps you also to transfer maybe certain things that I tell you to your own context. Then I have 4 showcases, or I would like to show 4 ways how I use the VSM. And it's very roughly speaking, a story from between more structural approach or process, who knows, to data/signals. All with the idea, of course, to connect people, the needs, also the possibilities with the existing technology, the next generation of technology, and how to generate value in a huge system. And then also something conceptual, which is in the moment growing and developing, thanks to a collaboration with Peter Gomez. That's the next book. And there I would like to share an idea, also maybe do a little resonance test in this round, and hopefully learn something, get your ideas or feedback. And feedback in terms of a corrective signal, even though you also are allowed to cheer, of course, at the end. Yeah. Now, Metro. Metro is a relatively huge corporation, 90,000 people in 23 countries. And what are we selling? We are selling mostly food to food professionals. So all the restaurant owners or hotels, caterers, this is one part of the target group. The other customers more related in the eastern part of the world, from our perspective, from Europe, from Germany, are the so-called traders, so the kiosks, the 911s, the small shops in the neighborhood around the corner, and they buy their supplies there. And then there's a third customer group, actually basically every self-employed, independent, small, usually, or medium business owner. So the agency, I don't know, a law office, people who buy, I don't know, their coffee, printing paper, and I don't know, stuff that they need, because as a B2B company, they get better prices and better offers. So it's a little bit, I think, I'm not sure, Costco is in America, a comparable example. And my role in this construct is that I work in the AG, in the corporate headquarter. And I see myself as kind of a hinge, a joint, a connector between the countries where the business is made, the money is earned, the tech organization called Metro Digital, who are building the digital solutions. And with this, I mean, really everything from, I don't know, the cashier system, the website, the app, controlling really everything that has to is related to digital and IT is done by this entity. And then me with the corporate perspective, where I would like to take care that we have scaling solutions, like we say in the business world nowadays. So solutions that are easy, that we get rid of a certain heterogeneity and are able to also iterate and learn and adapt fast to a changing business. Yeah, maybe a little too long, but that's the story about Metro. So finally, let's start with the first example. And from a dramaturgic point of view, I start now with a maybe most boring example, the most obvious one. And that was my time when I had the pleasure and honor to work together with the data science team and to give them the experience or develop together a way of working that is closely related to this hype called agile. Of course, it was funny in the first place that they said, well, we, of course, as data scientists, you know, there's the word science. We cannot work in a linear way like in a factory, and all your agile ideas are crazy and forget it. We are a special animal. And then I used parts of the VSM in our ramp up phase to understand better what they want, what they need. And then in the end, I pulled something together. And I would like to guide you roughly to this idea. The clouds are covering now a part of the drawing. Therefore, at first, of course, as it is a good tradition in my experience, let's start with the environment and then start to understand where we are embedded in. And of course, as data scientists, we look outside in the world, what is happening around us in terms of research, trends, new developments in terms of cloud computing and so on. And that's the interesting thing. Actually, the teams in Metro Digital are quite autonomous. They have many levels and degrees of freedom and can influence certain tool set and so on, and especially the way how they work. Basically, as long as they perform, they can do more or less what they want. This is very simply said. Of course, there are also overarching principles, and it's not that simple. Yeah, then we also looked outside in the world. This is also more for a symbolic visualization included. What are the typical partners that they have here? GCP, for instance, means the Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, Azure from Microsoft. So where do we let our big computations run? And here I have to admit, yes, this is not the pure doctrine, but I put also internal units in the environment because I did not went through the whole exercise of the recursion levels with them. I just treated this team as a viable system, and I accepted that this is not the proper way, but as long as it helps and works, I do not care, because once I learned from Javier, as long as it works, and that's the spirit. Okay, so then we went through the whole content or through the systems, and I would like to tell the story now from system 5, from the top. So we specified together what is actually the purpose of this team. What is their understanding of their reason to be? Then what is their big what for, the vision? Also a typical artifact, and that's therefore it's, by the way, written in green, to maintain or run the system 5. Then also, okay, nice, after having the what for, the vision, how do we state the mission? As in my understanding, the mission is kind of the guardrails. Giving me clarity is more of such a nature. Plus also, what are our working values? What is important for us for a team? What are the values where we would like to come back? Besides the fact that, of course, every company has their own corporate values and all these nice, you know them, no? Printouts in the conference rooms and statements. Then also maybe quite technical, the question, what are kind of coding practices do we want to follow? Maybe you know this from other developers, IT guys. Writing code can be sometimes a religious question. So which school of thought do you follow? And of course, here you have a little reference to an internal artifact, which are the overarching architecture principles in the company. So what are the ideas on how to build an application? Then we had also a little discussion, but more on an informal level, because these things were really clarified, but here about the AI specific ethos. Luckily, this is basically the stuff that is there developed more of a marketing nature and not really systems, algorithms that judge over people in a way that it could be racist, even though they try to be aware of it. It is a very diverse team, many countries, different nationalities, super nice. And then also as a little example here in blue, written, okay, and what are the events to maintain the system? So at least a little distinction between the systems. And as you will see, I try to be relatively coherent and always ask myself per system within the VSM, what is a typical artifact, a document in quotes, or a wiki page, whatever. And what is the social space where we interact, where we either discuss, celebrate, I don't know, decide, prioritize, do something together to reach a certain goal. And yeah, therefore you see also here this informal events, just to write it down, not in order to control it. And so the typical Christmas dinner party or summer party. And here, this is the reminder that these artifacts, PVMV, purpose, vision, mission, values, are often regularly reviewed, because it's, from my perspective, cool to have a vision, but I don't know, every year or so at least, let's read it again. Does it fit? Do we have to adapt? And if yes, okay, adapt. And if not, nice, you can keep it. Yeah, then let's continue with system 4, system 4. And here you see, again, with the same logic, in blue, the different artifacts, like everything that is related to product exploration, product discovery. So looking out for new ideas, features, the so-called spikes. And usually that's a funny thing. Of course, we have a connection between an artifact, between an event. This is an event, the workshop, and here is the result of this event. So we do in the product exploration, but the end, certain tasks are flowing into a so-called product backlog. And these are special descriptions for planning levels. So it's like a work package. On work package level, the planning. Same applies here for the release planning. When you plan to release a piece of code, you do this, and this is often related to an artifact. This is here very special, the so-called product charter. Especially the data science people have a certain pain point. The business thinks they do the data science and machine learning, and they all have seen Terminator. So they expect the, I don't know, AGI, super intelligence. And I mean, this actually, but this is another story. In the moment, a lot of the stuff is just advanced statistics. But anyways, so the product charter is a very important artifact to clarify together with the business, what do we want to achieve? What is the data? What do you want to improve? And usually they ask also, of course, surprise, surprise, as data people, what kind of business KPI do you want to drive? So please be explicit. We want to measure it. Yeah. And then also here we have meetings around the roadmap and OKR alignment. I will speak about this a little bit later. And you see again, then the result, the artifact, OKRs or North Star metrics. About this topic we'll also speak later in a bit. But let's continue now with the next step. And that is, system 3. So after, and this is also what I like about the VSM, by the way, sometimes I see the VSM as we slice time. So organization levels are connected to a time aspect. So system 5, norms, eternal, the spirit, the ethos of the system. System 4, strategy, more long-term, a few months, a few years, maybe just a few decades. It depends, of course. And then here in system 3, we are, from my perspective, actually on the level of the tactical planning level. A week, 2 weeks, maybe such kind of a time frame, or a month. Again, it depends. And therefore, a typical event that you have in the agile world is then the sprint planning. That means you plan a certain working period. This period is called sprint in Scrum. You can know it, you can also forget it. Anyways, you plan a certain period of time. You want to refine your work. You want to really want to understand what are we actually doing and why, and what is the goal, blah, blah, blah. And for the data science guys, you can imagine they need fun, they need challenge, they want to learn. Therefore, we invented a format called the Science Dojo. It was a super simple format. Someone has an idea, a finding. Oh, last night I found here in this paper, this algorithm that could save us, I don't know, significant amount of computation time, blah, blah. And then the others grill him, and a mix of learning and also innovation in a super simple format every 2 weeks, 1 hour. Yeah. And then I spare you now all the details. Maybe this is a little bit self-explanatory. I would need now to explain each and everything about Agile. So what is a product backlog, a definition of ready, definition of done, stuff like that. But you get hopefully the idea that these are all artifacts that are also needed to maintain here on this level, from my perspective at least, what's happening and what must be done and planned. And here you see also, by the way, that I have not mentioned this before consciously, that I also try to include not only how do we meet, what do we produce in terms of artifacts, but also the actors. And here this is super rough. Of course, there's not a manager, but the team together maintains the function each time. If it's from my perspective at least, team that is not too big, and has a good agile support, then they can do this all together. And then you see also here the big difference is because System 5 operational closure, external people like the stakeholders and users cannot be part of System 5. That belongs to the team. In my understanding, in my maybe dogma, if I may say so. And then I don't now do all the details, but just a rough overview. And now I have to zoom out finally. And actually I can delete this now. Now you see the full picture. Here you see that for System 2, I included the so-called the daily meeting, the classical stand-up, plus the team is looking on a certain working board where they understand what is the status of the tasks. And by the way, this is one of the findings, general findings now, having the VSM and Agile stuff in mind, that no matter which which system you examine, often 3-star is not properly maintained. That's actually something like a default methodology from my perspective. So really doing retros as a team together, get better. Everyone is in charge for the so-called Gemba. This is from the lean world. Go to the place where it's happening and learn and see. And of course, we have also, from my perspective here, a important artifact. It's nice that we have our normal work packages, but we should never, ever forget, hey, if we want to get better, we have to make a task out of it and we have to work on this improvement. And if we don't take the time to get better, well, then we won't get better. Make it tangible. But this is my interpretation of 3-star audit channel. For me, it's a system. Yeah. And of course, it is also quite alive. Therefore, I included, by the way, here in the channel descriptions, also here in the other things, I have always descriptions, but especially here, inspect and adapt, the learning loop of the system. And for System 1, super short, this all together here is for me System 1. I just created with them a generic data science process, or a way how to understand when should we do certain things, from the workshop in the beginning till we have this product charter that needs, of course, also some loops till it's done and everybody has understood. And then certain working processes are applied to engineer and develop and deploy something that at the end is accepted by the customer and delivers value, and that you operate it also, because it's nice to build something. Operation is another thing. And they had the luxury that they have the engineers and the operation people in one team. So they were not divided. Very nice. Yeah, now I've spoke so much that I have the question, if there are maybe right now already questions, then please feel free to raise your hand or your voice.
I will start with a question, Mark. Just in terms of interpretation, I found I mean, of course, I know that we all do our own interpretations of the 5 systems, but for instance, in System 5, you say, you talk about the events like the Christmas parties and the summer parties and things like that. You put them as System 5. Why make you think, classify it as a System 5?
Yeah, because I think there it has the strongest power, or there these events create social cohesion. In German, I have a saying that is a little bit rough, I have to admit, but sometimes, especially in the Corona days, we felt as a team, damn, we need to go out in the bar and do Heilsaufen, so healing drinking. So to get rid of the stress, relax, and have a nice beer together, a little party, dinner, stuff like that. And I think this creates a special atmosphere, and therefore I put it in System 5.
Okay, okay. And the other question in System 4, you talk about the issues like exploration, discovery, release, planning, and so on.
Yeah.
Many of them are activities, yeah. But you don't mention the roles. Who is in charge of these activities? You mentioned the activities themselves.
Sorry. Yeah, in this setup there in the company, indeed, every 6 weeks, twice per year, the teams do a discovery week, a product discovery. It's supported, facilitated by a so-called Agile Master, and they do then some sort of, I don't know, design thinking, or there were guys programming a certain app, but they never were together with the driver, the so-called driver app, when goods are packed in a depot and then on the truck, from the truck, transported to the customer, so food service distribution. And these guys were programming an app, but they never sat next to the driver. They did not know what he was doing. And then they have at least there the chance to go out, learn and see and understand, this is the problem that we have to solve. And not what I thought in my chamber being the coder, the nerd. Nothing against nerds. I love nerds and developers. But they need to go outside. They have to understand what is the real pain, and not, I don't know, watch YouTube videos about it.
Okay, and the final question also about the interpretation of the 5 systems in terms of the System 1. I see that you can sort of, again, focus on the activities and the sort of flow chart of activities, but I can imagine that behind this flow chart, there are teams of people that are specialized in each one of these stages of the process, of all the data processing, isn't it? Modeling and so on.
Absolutely.
So I mean, broadly speaking, how many people would you have in this kind of team?
That's always a problem, to make sure that they don't grow. In the moment, we have 10, 11, which is already too much, actually, to be a small team with a good balance of communication and but there are many capabilities and skills needed. So actually this data science, it started with a team, 2 teams, then it merged into a domain, and then within the domain already they are now again have this division of cells. So in the moment, slicing the features and then making it clearer with kind of capacity is needed, and then maybe 5 people. Okay. And they do then all the product recommenders, for instance, who say, because Angela last time, that's the cool thing about the Metro, we have all the data about the customers because they are registered, they are B2B businesses. So I know when Angela bought always the vegetarian schnitzel, the next time in the promotion, I show you the vegetarian schnitzel as the first item in your newsletter, because that seems to be the most relevant to you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, then.
We have 2 questions, Mark.
Yeah. Sorry, please.
Yes, thank you. Mark, could you elaborate a little on your system in focus? Is that a firm or is it a unit within a corporation, or what is it?
Sorry. Metro AG, the AG, Metro AG is the holding. Below that, there are the country organizations. Next to the country organization under AG is the Metro Digital, the IT guys, the guys who are building the technical solutions. Within the Metro Digital, there are units. They are part of the customer unit. In the unit is the domain data science. In the domain data science, I was talking to the data science recommender teams.
Okay, thank you. And does this this unit have to be viable? Is viability the criterion you are looking at here?
Well, this is a killer question, if I may say so, because from a pure doctrine, I would say no, and they because they are also an enabling function. That's a funny thing. They don't have, their products are only indirectly visible with the market and touching the market. So actually they deliver predictions. Yeah, they deliver data in a database, in a table, and then a product like the M shop, the Metro shop, can use this data to display frequently bought together these kinds of functionalities. So is it necessary? No, but I see somehow a human imperative. I cannot help it. From a pure doctrine, I would say no. But it's hard. It's hard because they are somehow enabling. They are very operational, and they could do their job also with another management. So they actually they apply to system one criteria. But they are part of very long value chain. Maybe that's the tricky thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Trevor.
Mark, it's very interesting. Thanks for this. Could you clarify delivery of predictions? It says most likely to consumers. What do you mean by that? Because I've done work for things like the Spa chain, which is sounds a bit similar to Metro actually, back in the 90s. But when you say consumers, do you mean consumers of data? You don't mean the people walking into stores and buying things?
Nee, sorry. Yeah, good that you asked. I mean actually people who consume the data, the APIs the team provides, and there is the overlap then with the customer. These are the guys who are in the blue box or shopping online.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Trevor. We have now Marcus Orego. You are muted. You are muted, Marcus.
You unmute.
That's all right. Yeah. No, still mute. You need to unmute.
Can't we do this for him? Nee, he is unmuted.
Yeah.
The microphone is broken.
Is it? I don't know what's going on with Marcus.
Let's go to Hugh.
Now?
Marcus.
Is that
Yeah.
Can you hear me? You hear me? Can you hear me?
Marcus is on, so you can go. We heard you, Marcus.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So sorry for that. If I understood well, Mark, you made this VSM picture together with this data science team. Is that correct?
Partially, yes.
Okay.
Partially, I have another thing. I think this is the third example. This is what I did then with them together. I showed this also afterwards to them.
Yeah.
But this is not really the chronological order, to be honest.
Okay. So my question would actually be, how did these guys, who I presume do not know the VSM, how did they react to this type of exercise you made with them?
They thought, yeah, finally we have this landscape. Yeah, now it makes sense. Now I understand why we're doing stuff, why we need it, why the retrospective, even though it costs time, is inevitable. Or if we don't do it, then we have to be aware, okay, then don't cry if we don't get better, if we don't get into this loop of inspect and adapt of our processes and artifacts, way of working. Yeah. That was cool.
Okay. So no irritation, what kind of strange drawings is he doing here?
Nee, because they are really able to think in a very abstract manner. That's my assumption or hypothesis. So no, there, of course, with the if it would have been typical managers, I think I would have overwhelmed them absolutely. And therefore, you see also later on when I continue, maybe if I say so, brutal simplifications, which are hopefully not trivializations. This is the next thing I wanted to exactly speak about, how to talk to people who don't have so much patience. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. We have a Q. Q wants to.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, great. I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the talk. So first quick question was just clarifying. In the title, it was about improving social systems. So is in this case here, is the focus just the social system of a business or an organization, or is there a wider principle at play?
No, basically at first I have to say I'm completely solely and only in the business sphere working. So you won't see any, I don't know, public institutions or stuff like that. And here, this is really just the team example. So influencing a team. Later on, the last example, drum loop, will talk about the alignment of hopefully a few thousand people. So, and that's why I consciously started with the smallest example, a data science team. And how to make sense or help them, how they can make sense of what are we doing, why we're doing, what do we need, and so on.
Having done a fair amount of programming, if I was experiencing this, I think I would be looking at, for example, why isn't there more software involvement at the strategy level? Because you have things like domain analysis and expressing domains and things like that, which, I mean, I know you're talking about coding styles and things like that, but if you can actually use software to express the business logic, things like that, does that manifest in what you're doing here?
You could add it as you can create an event, or I don't know, you could also just describe and have it.
Yeah. I just think if I was looking at this as someone sort of participating, I would start to feel a bit more boxed in, because it's sort of, it's just saying that if you're doing software, then all you're interested in is the weekly cycle sort of thing. Whereas, if you've got people strategically minded, they want to look into the long term and see that how do you want to produce products that are successful and work well, and so you want a long-term view. So wondering about how long-term views manifest here at system 3 level, I suppose.
Well, I would put the long-term development from my feeling quotes experience here in system 4, and somehow what are my North Star metrics, OKRs and roadmap where we rarely exchange are meant to be a container for meetings that deal with the future. How and you do it now, that is not here really described. And to be honest, this team needed in the beginning really to fix the basics, because they were somehow had trouble to find also acceptance internally that other colleagues use their services and results.
I think I'm starting to put my finger on a little bit of where I didn't feel quite comfortable, I suppose, with it. I mean, partly because it's about software and I know about software, so you can sort of relate to it all. And that is where it seems to be going down the lines of assigning roles to particular roles and people to particular levels. Whereas if I was in a software company, I wanted it to do very well and to produce great services, then I would want to be able to relate at all levels. And so you contribute at all the different levels, rather than just say, here's your weekly work and this is the box that you work in, like at number 3. Do you see where I'm coming from?
But that's why I try to express here.
Okay.
You see always the team with the guidance and facilitation, or the guidance is the wrong word, sorry. Facilitation of a agile coach person that enables self-organization and helps them to live it. Because now, once defining certain things is the one thing, then you have to do it in expressively. I want to make clear here. I'm not talking about this is the manager Schnickenfittich and this is blah blah blah. No, crazy.
So where you have
maintaining together,
where you have DS team written here under the, you've got in 5.4.3 you have DS team. Is that the same team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Gotcha. So they're not separate teams. That's
no.
The reference to the same thing.
Excuse me. Yeah. Also here for everything. And here I did not make of now in this visualization the effort to show actually in which phase which skill is more or less needed.
Yeah.
This is something else.
Yeah, because you could read it as different data science teams or something if you just. Sorry.
Right.
It's probably because I was 10 minutes late, so sorry about that.
Yeah. It's the same team.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm enjoying the talk. Thanks.
Good.
Okay, let's carry on, Mark. We have not more.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have to accelerate because I go now relatively fast through a deck that was used because not too long ago, there was the idea in this Metro Digital to overcome the matrix. And I had the chance to be part of a working group in asking the question, how can we actually become a network organization? And of course, one of the first things I felt needed to be said is that, of course, every organization is already a network organization / it's viable, no, more or less. So we should not look at each other and say, oh, we are a network organization, surprise, surprise. But no, understand to which extent are we functioning like a network, and what is functional, what is dysfunctional, what do we want to formalize and what do we don't want to formalize, because that's of course one of the strengths of in my experience, very hands-on experience, that if you formalize too much, of course, then you have a bureaucracy, and actually you want it to be agile, and lean, and in the end you are, I don't know, a colonialist in India on steroids or so. Whatever. So the network organization, and the problem was everybody was very excited about this topic, but they had no idea where to start. And of course, it's a bit wicked because all these topics that were in these meetings, the customer, budget, product management, governance, our strategy, roles, capabilities, and this is just a symbolic visualization. Everything is connected. We are so confused. And then I try to propose something. A few points. So a no-brainer, except non-linearity, complexity. And that was nice with the group, well-minded people, very open-minded. Chaka, we can do it. Then let's follow the MVO approach. I already started to hacking now a little bit the term viable into the system by using the idea of the minimal viable organization, which is a wordplay for the agile folks from MVP, the minimal viable product. So more or less a question of how is your way of thinking. And then there was also for a while an external agency involved, and they had some nice ideas about the network organization and some principles. But to my, honestly, I thought that was way too abstract, and I want to make it tangible with the help of the VSM. So there I mentioned in the tool. And also what was lacking for a while, we had no common visual language. We were always using words, and I have nothing against narratives and storytelling and so on, but it's so damn linear, and the power of visualization was not used for the sake of super fast sense making. And during the course of these debates, I developed, by the way, a new mantra for me, and that is the mantra in certain meetings. I say in the beginning, intention beats definition. So don't fall into the trap of word erotica definition discussions, which are endless. But let's make sure, do we share the meaning? Yes? Cool. Then let's move on and tackle the next topic, the next problem, the next point. And next point is also a keyword. Also there was this global galactic confusion that I perceived. So I proposed, come on, let's start somewhere. It doesn't matter. We will anyhow stumble from the one topic into the next topic. And let's use the artistic intelligence. Yeah, let's think like an artist. And be bold enough that we don't know everything in the beginning. And we have a little bit to learn, and we make mistakes, and we correct here and there. But start and don't try to solve every problem, which is not solvable, of course. Naja, and then I keep it short here. Yeah, obviously, fractal nature recursions as one of the basic ideas to tackle complexity. Then this is a bit stolen with pride from Rita Graf and her book, Seeing Around Corners, about strategy. There she works also with the idea of a network and focus on the edges, because ice melts at the edges. So the operational units, maybe in the language of the VSM, focus on the S1, because this is something that I like to repeat. We need to deliver value in use. Yeah? It's nice if I bake a nice bread, but if the person who bought it don't likes the taste, cannot enjoy it, I have not done my job. So value in use. As a paradigm. And then the third point, of course, here the slicing in terms of VSM. And I keep it short. I don't go through everything. I explained here the basic idea, or how I have understood it, if I may say so. And also it was in vogue in these days to always look on one popular example, Haier, or Haier, I don't know how it is expressed, this Chinese company who are building kitchen appliances and stuff like that, as far as I know, washing machines and so on. So manufacturing industry, and they are a network organization with micro entities. That's why the abbreviation ME. So actually, the flotilla of agile, independent agents in the system who are nourished by a central platform, and that was a little bit en vogue. Therefore, we had this ME term included here. And of course, loose coupling, high cohesion to prevent disasters in chaotic, catastrophic events. So, and now, finally, and the purists, you have to be now very strong, because now I know I'm working on very, very thin ice. I'm more than aware. I try to nail down the VSM to 3 levels. So, the operation, the support functions, and the governance. And of course, there's a mapping behind that. The one who knows the VSM in detail can maybe easily do behind the curtain. But I thought, and that's also a learning, in the past, I was sometimes like a cook who comes to the guest who's sitting at the table, just wanted to start to eat. And then I show the customer, the guest, my pans and pots. Look, this is how it looks. With these pans, I cook this dinner. And the guest just wanted to have a nice dinner, enjoy a nice dish. Therefore, that was sort of my background thoughts on negotiation, where I thought, okay, Mark, hopefully this is not a hardcore trivialization, but already, I have always be very conscious about the cognitive energy of the ones in front of me. So I nailed it down to these 3 functions. And these are just words. The visualization now looks like that. I tried to incorporate kind of a circle logic that could remind you also on how is it called? I forgot the name. Sociocracy or holacracy. And I take the similarity with a twinkle in the eye also into account. It's okay. I take the risk of a misunderstanding. So here 4 and 5, basically here more or less 2, 3, 3 star, and here 1. That is actually my idea behind it. And and then also develop a policy. Okay, what are the standard functions that they want to do by themselves? For instance, will this team do a complete hire and fire process? Certain HR tasks. Do they want their own P&L? do they do their own balance and controlling, or do they want to buy it, in quotes, from a central platform service? That was the idea behind it. And then now it becomes more network-ish, taking this bubbles and, in quotes, zooming in, out. It depends how you see it. The typical, I don't know, funnel view, how you still have on the left side the environment, the customer, some sort of value chain, or value in use delivery, the micro entities either supporting each other, or these micro entities come voluntarily together. That was the wet dream, yeah. I admit it, never realized, to an alliance, and then this alliance is coordinated on the big mothership, yeah, the platform, the home base, where the teams get what they need. Also an idea that is not, and I have to be careful that, if I may say so, that at least on an informal level, we need a leadership coalition, an alliance, because it's crazy to put all the pressure to the shoulders of one person. And this is a little bit also stolen with pride from the Spotify, the most recent model, not the one from 2012, but 2015, important. That for the work that is done in many of the product teams, we need actually a mix of business, tech, and UX, so user experience people, designers, the graphical guys, together as a leadership team, because Ashby is laughing silently in the background. Complexity forces us. We need to divide and split responsibilities and share responsibilities. Yeah, therefore, here we see also the leadership as a service. That's one of the dogmas. That is, by the way, also there's seriously worked on their artifacts. Very nicely done. Okay, I continue now, or maybe not. If it's necessary to ask right now questions, I'm really sorry, diving a bit deep. It takes long. Angela?
I just have one comment and a question. Is I have found one of the most challenging things of applying the VSM is, as we all know, the complex representation that Stafford used, and all these attenuators and amplificators and all that people resent a lot, especially when they are not engineers. Because like you, my experience using the VSM with engineers is always great. Engineers pick it up and they don't have this breakdown in communications because of the language and technicalities. But I find very interesting your representation, and my question is, and I think that John and me have been also progressing in our practice, in our consulting practice, trying to find out this kind of more intuitive ways of plotting recursions and presenting the ideas without losing rigor. It's always the how do you manage to ease the communication without losing rigor, isn't it? So I really like your approach, and I think that coincidentally it coincides a lot with an approach that the kind of representation that John and me have been using recently. And the question is, did you find that people catch up the ideas easier? Was it easier, the communication, by avoiding plotting the original VSM diagram, but trying to go with this diagram that is keeping the idea of recursion, keeping the environment, and sort of making easier the interpretation of the categories of systems 2 to 5?
Yeah. I have to admit, yes. Also to avoid sometimes this understanding of a, let's say, classical top-down hierarchy when they look on the systems and the typical visualization, that they don't get it, that it's inclusive logic, how the big, how it all fits together. Therefore, yes. And looking at the time, I will now accelerate and jump directly to an example. This is now really in a premiere. I have never visualized it yet. It's not true. Sorry, once. Just recently on a real physical whiteboard. Interesting experience after being so long forced to work only with a computer. And I don't even use the word. Oh no, the funny thing was, a little spoiler, the next topic that I will dive into, the people discovered by themselves non-linearity and introduced the term ecosystem. And you cannot imagine, or maybe hopefully you can imagine how much I was internally smiling and grinning my my butt off because it was so funny. that was super present of the universe, how this happened. And that's what I wanted to share. This is the nicest VSM hack that I've ever experienced so far. And that will hopefully really scale and reach a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mark.
So if there are no immediate questions, and I have to time box myself now to, let's say, 10 minutes to have some time left for exchange. This I'm going to share with you via link. Actually, I wanted to dive with you through a hardcore idea how I even further reduced the VSM to 4, let's call it levels, or meta levels of the meta levels. I don't know if this is appropriate. So operations, tactics, strategy, innovation, norms, and identity. So basically from 2, 3, and 3 star, I just melted it, baked it together into the tactical level in my perception. This is system 1, 4, 5. And then I used for quite a while already the VSM in my agile consulting work to always clarify default questions. And I wanted to have kind of a cheat sheet, like if you're writing a test in an exam and you have this piece of paper with you when you go on the toilet, you could, what was it? I forgot it, damn it. So a little, I don't know, a cheat sheet. So what are the processes and flow questions per level, artifacts and results? How do we deal with planning and task management, roles and contributions, the events, and so on? Like I said before, it would take now a bit to go through it, but it's meant to be like an inspirational list, not like a prescriptive sheet. Yeah, very important. It's not prescriptive. This is just an idea. And by the way, for everything that you would ask now and say, hey, Mark, why do you put this here and not there? I will say, yeah, also possible, fair. So it's more like a playground to inspire, to think, what do I need in terms of these structural aspects here to maintain each system, or what could be done? Yeah, it's just a could. It's just a collection of ideas, and I cannot and will not claim this is the truth or reality. So I want to be really clear about that. And I'm still also not 100% happy with it. But the funny thing is, for the guys, my Agile Master colleagues who knew the VSM, they really liked it and they used it. So they got to a new team, and as a first check, okay, how is it about here, System 5? What are they doing? Okay, they have nothing. They have not even defined a vision, and they don't know even why they exist and what they are doing. Okay, nice indicator. Or they have really a problem here with a stakeholder support when it's about product discovery and what is actually the long-term development of the product. And therefore, this is a wild bunch, a wild collection of methodologies, tools, whatever, with the idea it shall help, so to say, be a shortcut to find a solution when you look on the system. Of course, for the price of sacrificing 2, 3, and 3 star and merging them into this tactical level. But, and now I continue, here we are. I'm working now in a new unit that exists for 6 months, a new corporate function. And in the beginning, since we all are very keen about data, and I would like to emphasize we want to be data informed, not data driven, that we have not defined the North Star of this unit. So what is the one number that matters for us? Just as a playground for the, sense making, very important, because don't now start to argue with me about the relativity of numbers and then all the problems that arise, signal, data, information, knowledge, and all these questions. I know, but I'm sorry to say, in the machine room in business, and I'm not dealing always with people who are interested in philosophical discussions, but they have a certain pressure. Therefore, keep it simple. What is the North Star metric? What is the number that matters? And this is now something that I cannot share. but it doesn't matter because the story goes the following. Then it was clear, oops, sorry, wrong size. Then it was clear we need here another KPI. Yeah, that's actually the wrong way around, but anyways, so this KPI A, and we know by evidence, not necessarily by a mathematical connection, that this one has an influence of this North Star metric. And then we spoke about another KPI, KPI B, and that has also a connection. And as well, we found a third one. Yeah, and what a nice thing, Trinity. 3 is really a nice number. A third aspect, KPI C, also connected. And the more we thought about it, we understood, aha, actually we have something like that A drives B, B drives C, C drives A again. So we have a circle. And that is very close to the work of Peter Gomez, called networked thinking, vernetztes Denken in German, a nice tool set, one of my favorite strategy development methodologies and ways to think. And that was cool. And this emerged with the group. And I was not guiding them or telling them. At the end, we said, wow, this is our metro digital ecosystem. And now we have a nice side effect. And that is, at the end, I would like, to show you now what is the beauty about it, because we can now extend it. This is my unit in which I work. And we have in the IT department, let's say here's product 1, here's product 2, and they have also their North Star. And this applies now also for many other products. And they all can finally understand how they have a contribution, maybe be it here directly, or a product is working here, supporting this product, and that drives this KPI. So that's one of the beauties from my perspective. And the first tests were fantastic. The people finally understood, we cannot influence everything, but there we have a meaning. There we have a reason to be. Then cool, it makes sense. I understand. Yeah, I'm just, in quotes, the website guys, part of the marketing aspect of the whole customer journey business thing. And that was the one nice aspects. So the people were able to understand where's my contribution, what I'm doing here in this game. Now, last point, zooming out and also consciously now extending a little bit, having the products, the teams who build the website, data science, you name it, they're all nice, but they depend again on all the infrastructure teams, who are building often the background, the backbone of the system, the hidden stars, where they also have their important KPIs, availability and stuff like that. I don't dive now into the details. And to make the long story short, now this picture emerged and the people understand their contribution directly, indirectly, where in the best sense they get out of the victim role, out of this, I cannot do something. No, you do. Here, you see it there. Yeah, how cool. Now the VSM. The North Star is for the recursion level 0 from my perspective. The normative metric, so system 5. Then the guys here around it, again, this onion logic, and sorry, these are not the nicest circles in the world. This is for me system 4. So to say, these are the strategic KPIs that drive the normative KPI. And then, okay, you can now start to argue, and from a technical point of view, then the products and the different solutions come into play. And their specific KPIs that they have. And that in the end, of course, the infrastructure, because without ops, things are not working. And so one could also say these could be viewed as system 1, while this is not really true. So basically, I want to emphasize just 5, 4, and 3. And this is about to be now deployed. There are still some tests going on because we have to make sure that we really can collect also the data that is funny. We have a data lake. We have exabytes of data. It's crazy. But finding the stuff and connecting it is sometimes harder than you think in practice. Yeah. And now 1910, I've reached my personal time box. Yeah. I would say that's it. As a bouquet, I have also more, but maybe one day, maybe that's an idea. We do a separate session about the question, how now also to incorporate the VSM or how the VSM is connected to weak signals, goal setting, OKRs, and how also KPIs are affected and how we deal with leading and lagging indicators. This is, I'm sorry to say, I underestimated the amount that I wanted to present, but maybe another day. But at least let's double check. Are there any questions and so on?
Thank you, Mark. We have a Hugh with a question, and there is another question from Juan Enrique that put before and we didn't notice, or I didn't notice. So, Hugh, would you like to do the question?
Thank you. We're on the right screen too. So on key performance indicators, to me, that's the sort of thing that okay, keeps you focused on the work, but perhaps sometimes you might be too focused on the work. So when, for example, you get into firefighting mode, and you might have your balance between 3 and 4 can shift somewhat, for example, and everyone's focused on the short term and not on the long term. So does your KPI just focusing upon what those short term sort of firefighting mode interests are about? Do they take into account more expansive exploration?
The idea is definitely to do with every artifact a regular review, and also, of course, being aware of the relativity, how the data is measured, and also all the challenges working with historic data to understand the present or even the future. Here, in this context, because in the moment we have the motto, fix the basics, we are far from being advanced in terms of certain processes, tools, and so on. This is more a short-term orientation. And I admit I don't like it that much, but the problem is it's not only the thing of defining something, but also being able to measure it. So to make the long story short, actually, I would love to measure the so-called customer lifetime value and understand this as a core metric. But for the time being, out of reasons, we have to use another one, and that makes sense. But it's not static, and I hope it will evolve and change over time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see something elastic, like an envelope that you can, so there are times where everyone needs to focus, all hands on deck, and everyone needs to get through a certain milestone. But then you need to be able to relax again to allow people the expansive vision and the opportunities to explore and to pursue their own ideas too.
Yeah. And there also, by the way, that's what I like so much about the VSM. 3-star, from my perspective, is so strong and deserves to be called not only a channel, but an own system, because there I have the relaxing effect. I take the time to step out of the hectics of the operational realities, and we go into a retro mode and ask, okay, what have we, what went well, what could have been better, what have we learned, what can we improve, and so on. And this is for me a beautiful also example of the general pattern of agile working: focus times of action, relaxation, action, relaxation. And that fits to any context, and also about the KPIs, because I mean, they are also in the end just for me an enabler, hopefully, for meaningful conversations, and not the truth. Of course, they're just numbers, and we make attribute meaning.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Before I give the word to two more people that are asking questions, Juan Enrique Núñez from Mexico had one question. If you have used done social network analysis with the VSM, and you have
I know his work, I admire his work, but I have not done it yet.
okay. Right. So James.
Hi, Mark. Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed the talk a lot. It's been fascinating. I really was interested in the circular version of the VSM. Well, especially in the second example, in both cases. But I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about how you came to use that version of it and the effect that had with communicating it to people. Yeah, if that's all right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I try. Well, at first I thought really a visual hack. This and since network was is en vogue, okay. If the audience wants to be pleased this way, then I can also sing the song this way, dance in this way, perform in this way, because the pattern behind is important. It's just, so to say, the outside. But I have to admit, due to also my role change, I lost the energy to transfer it to each and everyone in the team. I still annoy my dear colleagues with certain ideas, but also due to my new role, I had to make a decision about where to put my energy in and how to balance everything. Therefore, I stopped, to be honest. The ones who know the VSM, my direct Agile Master colleagues and some other org nerds, they said, nice, cool, yeah, that could fly. And please, especially the C level, because this they feel confirmed, and that makes things easier. But it never went really down to each and everything further, I have to admit, unfortunately. And now I'm focusing on this North Star construct, to be honest, and then hopefully also engineer something like that, but step by step.
Okay, thank you very much. I found this really fascinating. I'm looking forward to the video going up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. We have the two more questions, one from John Lee, one from Brian. John.
So I want to thank you, Mark, for your talk. I just want to add that Stafford always said, don't send your second communication until you understand the reaction from your first communication. Part of the problem we have in the 20th century and 21st century is because of instant communication. We get a new idea and then we get another new idea. And the first idea had its impact, but if you send the second and third idea, you confuse your own work.
Yeah. And in German, we have the saying, the grass does not grow faster when you pull at it. Yeah, sometimes also, this was also with the C-level guys. They wanted the next organizational experiment and another experiment. And we also had to say, hey, understandable, and it's super that you have the energy, but leave it some time. The soil is there. We nurtured it. Now let the people their time to understand, make sense out of it, and so on. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we have Brian waiting.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Can, yes.
So this is going to be a very low-level question. I hope you don't mind. I'm aware of two communities who are struggling to understand the VSM. One who's given up and moved on to sociocracy, and another who's working chapter by chapter through Brain of the Firm, a little inquiry group. And it occurred to me, I remember in Stafford Beer's Designing Freedom, where he talks about trying to work out in System 4, a policy for the economy before lunch, and discarding several attempts and coming back after lunch and trying a new simulation and being much happier with that. And the question that occurred to me, and I guess there's an obvious answer, was, how about we had a simulator for the VSM itself, a flight simulator, so that people who were trying to understand how all the cogs and wheels and channels and systems and levels of recursion worked in actual transactions, actual walkthroughs. So for instance, supposing at some level, the elementary unit of organization, which Stafford Beer describes as having like a homeostat, two components that are interacting. Supposing it's a customer and supposing it's a salesman and supposing the customer is unhappy with the price that the salesman is putting on the car and he would like a cheaper price. And supposing the salesman can go up one level or maybe within his own unit, but maybe go up to a marketing manager or up to an even higher level and try to get a resolution for the conflict that's breaking out between him and the customer. In Stafford Beer's example in the Zahir lecture, he talks about a situation where a cement mixer breaks down in a province in Chile, and it's possible that it can't be fixed at any level and finally ends up on the president's desk, right, trying to fix the cement mixer. So the idea of the simulator would be that you hit the VSM with various situations and just follow the logic, how it works. So you start to understand how all the bits and pieces fit together. Is there such a thing as a flight simulator for the VSM? Does anyone know that?
I mean, Jose, you did something, right? You developed a piece of software or were involved in it. I don't know if Jose is still with us.
No, but there is no such a thing. It's a good idea, and it would be fantastic to have a tool like that to teach, like happens, for example, with system dynamics and in general systems thinking, as it is used in Boston, in the MIT. They have management flight simulators with real companies, examples of companies in a variety of sectors, fast food, electricity, airlines, etc. No? And they are really fantastic to transmit the idea. Well, what is putting in the screen, Mark?
I have everything.
What Mark is putting on the screen is the software. This software is well, I can talk about the software you wish. It's not a management flight simulator, but it could be used as a training tool to be familiarized with the components of the viable system model, and in general to get familiarized with how the organizational cybernetics can be applied. And there are some examples in the that accompany the software that may get near what you are saying, but it's not. I would not call it a management flight simulator in the same way that we use it in the system dynamics field. This screen that I was putting, Mark Lambert, is about the software VSMod. The software, what helps for training. In fact, I think that it is one of his values. It's good for training to transmit in a relatively fast way how the VSM works and what are the parts, what are the components. Yeah, there it is. And you can follow how can be applied, starting with a complex issue. In this example, that the example that is incorporated into the guide is a public university that has several recursion levels. And it is used as an example to show how the VSM is applied. The software helps you to facilitate the elaboration of the components of the VSM, which is quite tedious when you have many operational units and you have many recursion levels. you get up with a lot of pages on the walls that are quite complicated to follow. With the software, you have everything contained within it. It's just a question of clicking and navigating through the structure, through the recursion levels, or through the operational units that the system that you are studying has. So in this sense, well, my answer will be partially yes to what Brian is asking. This may help at least to convey the main components of the VSM. I think that this purpose can be obtained with this material. Thanks very much, Mark, for
Thank you.
Presenting.
That's tremendous. Thanks very much.
Chapter. Thank you, Mark. You're a good friend.
Yeah, and maybe one comment only, Brian. I wish that in my old days, a billionaire comes to me, throws a few billion on me to found a company, because a few years ago, I already imagined how a user interface could look like for I don't know, VSM app, blah. Also not having in mind that Jose did something with VSM mod. Nowadays, of course, in the browser, cloud-based, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so far nobody said, hey, Mark, here's the million, please build it. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Really interesting. Elena is waiting to comment. Elena.
Oh, I wanted to just say thank you. And Jose's package is very, very impressive, but it's too bad that people don't have time to learn the VSM by applying it to something like a household or a small business or a community center, because if you can do it that way, people really do, kind of begin to understand, but you need to be able to do multiple examples and then compare, like how is the household management different than the small business? How is the community center different from the small business? How is the household different than the community center? And just, kind of keep going back and forth. And I think when Stafford was thinking about the relationship between the VSM and the operations room in Chile, that he originally was thinking that that sort of thing should be possible in the future. But thank you for a fine presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And you have actually a wonderful workshop format with a small what was a restaurant, this role play, the afternoon in Heusen that you provided. So there are also ways to experience it. I think very interactively, as playing.
Yeah. I think it's best if you can do it interactively.
Yeah. And by the way, I created a series of videos. I started now finally and tried my best to make it as tangible as possible. What I have not done yet, what worked in Germany very well, that was maybe one of the success factors, criteria for my second book. I used the example of the German national soccer team and demonstrated, so to say, explained how the systems and the functions of the team can be mapped towards the VSM. Because in Germany, we have a joke. We say we have 18 million coaches in Germany, and everyone is an expert, of course, in the national soccer team. So that is an example that usually resonates, let's say, with the operation, the machine room, or with the C-level, because everybody understands the game. And okay, our strategy is here, and here's here's this kind of planning. And here we do the training, and here we're playing. And, but the simulation, I also tried to do it with system dynamics. I had the feeling I failed. I built only something that, I don't know, it was self-referential. It was not working somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to comment on Brian's question. I think that is a really good question and really exciting possibility. And I don't know, perhaps it's a question for all of us to consider for the future, because I think that in this community we do have enormous amount of expertise, and there is always the possibility of sharing good practice in terms of mapping the VSM, and perhaps this is an idea that we could explore in the future, Brian. Come back to your question and think about possibilities of sharing practice between all of us. That nowadays with the internet and multimedia and all the software that we have, it wouldn't be impossible to create a context in which we could all of us contribute somehow to this flight simulator, or good practice examples, videos, examples, so that we can share and promote the interest on the VSM by just watching that good practice. So I don't know if there is any final questions. I saw Raul earlier raising your hand. Raul, was it a question or not? You are muted. You are muted, Raul.
I'm sorry. I was just scratching my head.
Okay. I had a final question regarding KPIs. When you presented your way of exploring KPIs at the strategic, tactical, and normative levels, I immediately thought about Marcus Schwaninger's presentation in his book about these 3 levels of understanding the KPIs. Were you relating to Marcus' way of putting performance management at the 3 levels? Is it an idea that resonates with Marcus' ideas? Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say I'm there in this context, so to say, a kid of the School of St. Gallen.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hans Ulrich, what he did, I think also nice complementary work to what Stafford did and developed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, if there are no more, sorry, there is more. No, we are all right. So, okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a really interesting session, Mark. And if you are keen to go into a next section, perhaps, with the things that you didn't manage to develop this time, perhaps we can consider that in the program for next year. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elena,
thanks very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well done. That was great.
Well done.
Thank you very much. Honor and pleasure.
Thank you. Elena, are you going to stay for a minute? Yep.
All right. Then have a beautiful evening, everyone, or day, morning, wherever you are on this planet.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.